Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for making it this far through. And hopefully we'll make this session nice and rewarding for you. So this is the payload development journey. So this is the more tangible aspect. Now you've sorted out your method, your mechanism of how you can get into space. It's the what do I need to do to get there. So I'd like to introduce Olga, Amir, Hubert, and Daniel. And basically we can go through this now and go through all of these experiences of how you take this payload and get this into space. So what I will do is we'll dive straight in. You don't need to hear any more from me, so we'll dive straight into Hubert. When you were developing your payload for in-orbit manufacturing, was this something you thought would be absolutely straightforward, but that just turned out to be massively complex? And how did you deal with it? Because we all hit these things, we don't even consider this, and then it just becomes a big burden.
That's a very good question. I think Rose earlier today already mentioned a little bit what we're doing from Flawless Photonics. We are producing optical fibers, special optical fibers. So as our name says, we're a photonics company, but we're using microgravity as an enabler to get a better quality, a quality that you cannot achieve here on Earth. And we started on Earth. And one of the things there were two things that I didn't expect to be that much of an issue. One sounds a little bit boring, but it was really like we had not foreseen that we get such issues on procurement and delays for things that you would call a simple commodity that you get off the shelf. So we had little O-rings that took suddenly 12 weeks, motors that couldn't be ordered within 3 months. So that was quite a headache. We went through that with some creativity, recycling of parts, also eBay stuff that you typically would say, no way, don't go that path. In the end, we also benefited from that because certain parts like that became like we had to design them replaceable, so that once we had a new part, we could throw out this old eBay motor and run it with a new one. And all that together with ESA, LSA, and the folks from NASA and ISS National Lab, they realized there were serious issues, but we went through that. That was one thing. The other thing is related a bit more to what we're doing, drawing fiber. And what I personally didn't expect is that this process, as it is done here on Earth, is so dependent on gravity. Literally, when you start a fiber draw, you let a drop like that here, you let it fall. So you rely on gravity. Now, we wanted, and we do draw our fibers in microgravity. That was one challenge. So we had to invent one of the key parts of the manufacturing process, basically from new. We had to restart and to come from a very manual, artistic kind of process to an automated, repeatable production process. And a little part of that was also like testing stuff that needs to work in microgravity. In gravity was the second challenge that we faced with our first machine that is running on the ISS, but that we're also looking at right now in the next machine. Fluids, gases, liquids, etc., behave differently in microgravity than in gravity. And one of our principles is that we want to test stuff here on Earth before we send it into gravity. So I think these were the two major surprises that we were facing.
Yeah, it's I guess that's difficult. And one for Amir here, going from a terrestrial organization, what do you and your team have to unlearn? Very much like what Hubert was saying there, and completely rethink when adapting your technology, because you're starting this journey right now. And from what you've heard from Hubert, it's it's not the simplest of challenges.
Yeah, you're right, but very brief, I would like to say that Photocentric is a 3D printing company with something like 20 years of background at photopolymer and 10 years at 3D printing, and we have decided to move to space sector with some of the findings that we had for silicon carbide and other ceramics printing with our technology. So we think that maybe we can help for in-orbit service and manufacturing with our technology. However, when we started working on making a printer that can work in a zero gravity, we realized that it's not simple as we thought, and there is a lot of things that we have to consider. And you don't access to zero gravity unless you be on ISS. So it's something that is a one-way ticket. So you have to make sure to making something that works reliably for zero gravity, and it's an expensive test to be done at on the zero gravity. So it needs a lot of consideration to make sure that everything works perfect. Maybe for terrestrial application, you have a lot of opportunity to try and error, see the failure, and etc., etc. While in a zero gravity, there are not that much of opportunity to do and try and error before getting to that point. But what we can say is that we need to learn a lot about the gravity effect on sedimentation issue on the particulate system that we have on Earth, which we think that it might be a benefit for us in future. Also, the thing is that if we can make some ceramic part astronaut independent, that would be something interesting in future of new platform and test that's coming in orbit. So this is the thing that we are going to make a autonomous system capable of manufacturing ceramic and polymer parts. We might need to redesign the material because surface tension, hydrostatic force, and all sort of things that we have on Earth in zero gravity is different. So the thing is that we probably need to redesign it. Definitely for that design, we have to consider new specification because we're working with pasty or liquidy material. So this is something that we have to consider. Also, we have to make sure that the system is reliable in terms of some unexpected conditions or situation that we have in a lift-off process or launching process that it's make the situation a bit different. These are sort of things that we were very curious about to learn, and we hope that we can make it and we can make the part reliably for future application for long missions. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you. You touched on it there about the learning aspect. I guess for you, Daniel, it's if a research team does come to you and they've got no space experience,
yep,
what's the first thing that you would ask them, or perhaps the first thing you would want them to understand before they do go any further?
Yep.
First of all, we would like to take the space risk away from the picture. So we tell them that now I'm going to do a quick sales pitch. We are doing space for the last 8 years, sending multiple missions to the ISS on different rockets. We also send our own 2 satellites to space. Maybe we'll need to hire Atmos at some point of time to bring them back. We just send a payload over a polar orbit launch with SpaceX. We are looking on all the new space stations and capsules and vehicles that can take us up and down. And we are not only working on research mission, but now we are also transforming into manufacturing. So we just won a 2.5 million euro EIC accelerated funds to take our platform and turn it into a manufacturing platform. So the space part is almost totally owned, by Space Pharma together with our partners that takes us up and down. And what we would want to ask this team is actually what the value that they expect to get from such mission. And some of the answers are very surprising. Like one of the customers said, we just need a picture. We need to show our new investors that such certain process is working, and that's it. But we need it in 2 weeks' time. So that's one side of the story. The other side of the story is really, taking a cancer treatment all the way to the discovery phase with a big pharma. And the one thing that we want to convey the customer is that the space part of the mission is only a partial side. So most of our efforts, budget, resources are invested into the pre-mission phase and the post-mission phase. And that's where the end-to-end support together with our scientist team, that's where we actually work with the customer.
Yeah, and I guess something similar on your part here, Olga. It's when you have teams preparing for flight, we've got everything sorted, we know it's going to be like this. First time flyers, essentially. What would you change in that development process? If there was one thing that you would say to non-space, first time, they've got it all sorted, what would you say is the first thing you would get them to change?
Yeah, thank you, Alex. And first of all, thank you for the invitation. I am happy to be here and represent the Voyager technologies. Well, thank you for the question. It's actually something that we encounter very often, working with various teams from different backgrounds, and especially those, as you said, new to the space industry, gives us a unique perspective on common challenges and recurring patterns. Well, if I could change just a thing or something in the process, it would be how first-time companies, payload developers, or new to space companies approach or frame the role of launch and let's call it on-orbit integration. So meaning a hosting platform that would give and allow space on an orbital vehicle in their actually overall mission plan. Many teams, in fact, and this happens very often, that see this, let's say, path as a final step, something to address after the experiment is built and developed. But in reality, if your mission involves in-orbit testing or validation or research, those elements should be part of the first thing to do, and it's part of your day one thinking. Why? Well, because space environment imposes very specific constraints. We're not on Earth, so we have constraints from mechanical loads during launch to power, data volume, safety, limitation aboard orbital vehicles. If you don't design the experiment with those in mind from the very beginning, it may often lead to late-stage redesigns and delays, which are costly and risky when you're working on tight schedules. And in fact, at Voyager, this is a key part of our mission. We coordinate with companies that want to send payloads or experiments to the International Space Station. For many of them, as you said, especially for those without a previous space experience, we offer co-engineering support, co-development support, helping actually them to navigate those requirements, co-develop and adapt their systems according to the hosting orbital vehicle, in this case being the ISS. The infrastructure that Voyager has and the space heritage, which is more than 20 years, allowed us to manage more than 1,400 experiments over the 4,000 experiments conducted on the ISS as of 2024, and a large portion of which came from non-space entities or first-time company approaching to space. And we've seen numerous times how important, how relevant is that the platform requirements are integrated in the first step, or if they are integrated as the last step. So in short, our advice would be don't treat space as a destination, but treat it as a starting point. That one shift can actually make all the difference.
No, that's very useful, especially as right now we're hoping that the audience in here is on the fringe of space activities on this. So our aim here is to get people through the BSGN and other mechanisms and into space. Yeah, and I guess your repository of lessons learned from the previous ones, 1400, I think you just said, there's or somewhere near that. Is, yeah, hopefully you've got some lessons learned that can be shared with others. And I guess this is to the wider panel. Like Olga's kind of answer this one, but from everyone else's experience in this, what's the most common early decision that's caused the possibly biggest, but has caused significant problems later in the payload development process? Amir, I guess you guys haven't gone into space yet. You're still finding this, but even right now, I imagine you've overlooked things that have caused issues even up to now. So from this, for people in the audience that are considering taking this development approach, what would you say to them to just approach this in a different manner, keep an eye out for this? Any issues that you found that you would offer them?
To be honest, as you said, we are in a transition to do some stuff, first in a parabolic flight and then on the ISS. The thing is that I think some companies like Voyager that has experience of doing these experiments before can make some shortcuts, but shortcut for us. The thing is that we think that at the same time that we are trying to do something and developing something, we could share as much as experience or any interesting things that we found with the news and publication that we have. The thing is that the future of Cosmic Maker, if that happens, would be a platform, accessible for every individual that they want to explore in orbit manufacturing, and we are more than happy to help them. This is the thing that we are going to bring the opportunity for any individual who are looking for some exploration. And I think if we make this happen with the help of Voyager, later on, this platform would be accessible for everyone, and I think it would be a test that everyone can enjoy benefits of that. This is the thing that I can share right now.
If I may, first of all, with the context of the BSGN, Space Pharma is now managing 3 out of the 9 round 1 projects. And I think that the one thing that we learned is that you have to look on the long-term objective and the business behind that one-time mission. Because in most cases, all the scientists are very, very devoted and focused on how to make that one-time mission a success. But at the same time, we found that, after the mission, they were unable to go with the results and actually make the change inside their organization that will take this mission further. So I think that the one thing that we are doing together with the customer and the partners is saying, first, the customer needs to identify the long-term business value, and then the results can support that progress.
So at what point would you say that they need to really engage on this one and delineate from, it's almost technical to business, right? Because a lot of people come in technical focused. At what point do they really need to delineate here?
So I'll let the other answer, but specifically, for example, in the BSGN, what I like about the submission process, the evaluation, the assessment, is that a lot of emphasis is about the business value, right? The application level. Like, it's not just about the pure science or everything. Can it have an impact, right, on the industry, and I think that when you go through that process of taking your research into the business landscape, that's the first move towards a successful mission.
Yeah, and I think that is something that you've nailed there with the BSGN. It is that focus. It's business in space. It's not technology in space. And I guess, Hubert, you're well along the route for that already with, your essentially production runs in space already occurring.
Maybe to follow up a little bit on what Daniel had said on the, say, scrutiny a little bit and the analysis on the business side. We are based in Luxembourg, and Luxembourg is, I would say, a little bit special in terms of how we are using space. There is this large company that is making money in space since 30 years or so. And that inspired also our government to always push for a solid business plan. And that's the very first thing that you're discussing with our national delegates, with our national agency, going through, is there a business, and going beyond research. So that is one of the reasons why it also took a little bit until Flawless Photonics was operational here in Luxembourg, but we got quite a solid basis. And the good thing is we have that business perspective that is somehow in the DNA of Luxembourg and our government, and we get the technical expertise from ESA. And in our dedicated case, with being quite an international company, we had even more supporters with ISS National Lab, with our US entity, and also NASA helping us actually also to develop a system that is working properly on the ISS. So like all these bits and pieces together helped us as a company to get quite a good starting point. Not forgetting all the others that have been pushing, in our specific case, fiber drawing in microgravity, being it the early tests in the Vomit Comet, sounding rockets, and then also all the other companies like Redwire, Made in Space, who were producing or trying to produce fiber in space and advancing their state of the art. So it was quite an endeavor. It's not over yet, but we're on a good track.
So, judges, we're getting close to time. There's one bit from me on here. It's for each of you on your own work. It's we touched on, or Daniel just alluded to it before. We're not technology. We're talking about a business. But at what point did you guys think, okay, this could work in space? This is a product for space, not this is going to be a cool activity in space. I'm just wondering whereabouts you went from the technology being a technology to actually this is potentially a commercially viable product here.
Maybe in our case, for me, that was the point when we looked through all the numbers and stuff, and we heard a little earlier, I think in the session before us, euros or dollars per kilogram. So there's still you're paying per mass, and the beauty of the product that we are building in space is that we are selling by the kilometer or by the meter, and that a piece of fiber is maybe a few grams, but we are then need to pay for a machine that produces a few grams, but we are selling then in kilometers, and that was for me one of the, say, opening events, or where I saw, okay, this is going to work.
I think that our moment is when we become very humble and seeing the size of the industries that we support. So, you know, we are all coming from the space perspective, but the budgets, the cycles, the size, you know, of the pharmaceutical, the advanced material industries, all that, it's huge. And for them, each mission, although, you know, we negotiate hard for, you know, prices and budget and everything, it's really not the main challenge, you know, for them to run these missions. It's really about how they take the missions and put it as part of their overall supply chain life cycle of products, etc. And when you understand how huge these industries are, you understand that you have to take a very, very commercially driven approach to everything you are doing with science and with technology.
So on this, Olga, we've talked about the payloads themselves. It's from your perspective, is there anything that you really see and you go, yeah, these guys are on the right track? What is it that, are there any specifics that you see that come to you and go, yeah, this should be in orbit, this should be with us?
Yeah, that's actually a great question. And let's say that Voyager's perspective is a little bit different, because in terms of service provider and implementation partners, it works with, the plethora of different types of various teams and various companies. So, but in the beginning, it was said by Rose Hernandez, the protease crystallization, that's definitely something that is viable, and probably it has to be still studied, but it can be produced in space. And of course, all the manufacturing process, optical fibers, Hubert, and with their platform on the ISS, they demonstrated how the production in space can be more efficient. So definitely it's on-orbit manufacturing and all the topics around the on-orbit manufacturing and pharmaceuticals or biotech, especially. So in general, so we wouldn't be able to identify a specific segment, because of course there is a part of research which is still to be done on, and the microgravity can have numerous impacts on the processes that we are used to on Earth. So there's still a lot to be discovered, but as of today, we can take into consideration what's been the results so far. So definitely the two that I mentioned are the ones that can trigger or lead to a demand, let's say.
Great, thank you. Again, with the market, we're trying to grow the space market. You're touching on pharmaceuticals, we're touching on advanced materials, the wider, what we see as traditionally terrestrial markets, we're trying to draw into space. With that ecosystem evolving, do you think payload development as a service is going to be a bigger role and try and be more attractive to this non-space? Could it accelerate getting people into space? Like, this is to the wider panel.
Well, I can start first with this. I do think that payload development and co-development is actually will be required in the long term, because it's the union and the combination of two different industries and know-hows. You need, for instance, if we were to take pharmaceutical, biotechnology, healthcare in general as a sector, it's you would need the combination of different skills and know-hows, the combination of the biology or pharmaceutical know-how, space know-how, and the researchers. So you would need the combination of all those three to make something successful and to develop or co-develop the experiment itself.
Yes, so from our perspective, when we transition from research mission to manufacturing missions, it's all about not adapting the customer research to us, but actually adapting the way that we manufacture to the overall manufacturing protocols, routines, and by the way, even security and safety, right? So suddenly we need to pass certain quality control, we need to meet certain KPIs, we need to be standardized. So it's not about, okay, now you'll get this batch with this result, and the next day you'll get another batch with a different. No, it's about uniformity and about constant flow of the. So now we learn, from the other side, how to implement features in space that will support terrestrial manufacturing.
So thank you very much for all of your answers. And again, with the audience in mind, trying to get these who are on the fence to think about whether their activities are suitable for in space. So if each of you could give me one one thought or piece of advice for anyone sitting in the audience who's currently on the fence thinking, could my idea or my research or my business actually fly? What would you give them to be their next step? I tell you what, I'll go clockwise and I'll take it out. So Hubert first, then Amir, then Daniel, then Olga.
Yeah. My first advice would be don't spend too much time worrying about if your research can fly. Rather use that time and rethink what gravity does typically to your business, to your technology, and imagine and try to find new insights that you will generate when you switch off gravity. I think that's at least from my perspective, what we saw is the key differentiator. You get another variable, and that is quite valuable. So the rest, in the end, flying up there, although it's just engineering in a way or the other.
It's a bit soon for me to answer that. Just I hope that we can deliver a platform soon that make the research in zero gravity accessible for everyone. That's it.
So for me, a few things. First of all, it's closer than you think. Some of our customers are used to send things to India, and the ISS is closer. It's less costly than they imagine at first, and it can go much faster than they think. Just to give an example, with the Polar Orbit launch, we prepared everything end to end 3 weeks before the launch. So, don't be afraid to take your chance on a mission.
Olga?
Yeah, actually, I agree with Hubert on the part of the freedom and thinking out of the box. So on one side, you have the requirements for flight that can eventually limit the ideas and the way an experiment is developed. In fact, this is why when we work with non-space companies, we ask them to give us the protocol of what they want to do as they do it on Earth. And we would be the ones saying how this can be translated into in-space experiments. So I would say reach out to us and we will give all the support needed.
Thank you very much. And thank you very much to all of my panelists here. Daniel, Olga, Amir, Hubert. Thank you very much for your insights. I hope it was insightful to me, and I imagine it was massively insightful to the audience as well. And hopefully we'll get some more interest. We've just tipped over the fence into the BSGN and into space. So thank you very much for that.